I'm way too busy dancing along to the theme there to actually press the right button. Sorry, everyone, to keep you there for a minute. Hi, welcome to Geeksvana Live. Thank you very much for joining us on our first show of the week. Wasn't necessarily what I was expecting to be talking about today, but it's an important topic. And I think once you understand the ethos behind the ripple, as I'm calling it, I think that hopefully you'll be able to understand where I'm coming from. So today, I want to talk about the New Jersey drone sighting phenomena from an aviation point of view. This video will hopefully help the vast majority of non-aviation people watching to understand what is happening in the skies over New Jersey in the US, but also other mass drone sightings, which it appears will actually become a thing now. Mass drone sightings. It's incredible, really, isn't it? This will happen through firstly explaining a lot of what people are seeing and providing easy steps to help you identify the aircraft that you're actually looking at. But then I want to explain something that I use in my work when forming the basics of a story to find out what is happening and who is involved, getting to the facts. I call it the ripple, and I will ask you to pinpoint where you sit, the center, or as I might suggest, where most of us are, an outer ripple. This isn't my usual kind of video, and to my regular audience, especially those waiting for things like the National Trust video, we will be returning to normal service very soon, and we will as well, where possible, keep the aviation terms to a minimum to try and help this video clear. I know in one of our previous live streams used a lot of terminology, which is always an easy thing to do, especially when we work with this all the time. If you do have any questions that are remaining after that, do let me know in the comments and we'll try to answer them, especially if you're watching this on the replay. Some stories obviously just take a little bit more time to push through, and frankly the drone sighting side of things is just becoming more and more of a mainstream story every day. Now, a little about who I am. I'm a registered press card holding journalist, having had the pleasure of specializing in the drone space for a number of years, as my regular viewers will know. This includes a focus on regulations surrounding drones, but has also provided the opportunity to interview national airspace regulators, including the UK CAA and the US FAA on this channel, National Police, NASA and others on a wide range of topics involving all types of drones, from the tiny, almost toy-like drones that we feature on the channel sometimes, which we enjoy as consumers, all the way through to the heavy lift enterprise drones and even the future flight aircraft fantasies of air taxis and more. The first thing to clarify is that drones are normal and flying absolutely everywhere every day. Many people who watch this channel regularly will fly drones several times a week in day and night conditions, flying everything from the tiny consumer drones I just showed to the large heavy lift drones, even the ones on camera now. These drones can quite safely and legally fly over towns and cities, over your house, and in the main will operate actually even without you even knowing that they're there. In fact, many of the sightings people are posting are actually large manned aviation, such as planes and helicopters, because in the main, most drone flights happen without anyone knowing and without bothering you, because they are quite often quickly passing overhead and carrying on with the mapping or the survey or the photography or other work that the drone pilot is carrying out. Ironically, the drone use in the US is probably the very traffic not being sighted often and posted as drones online, because they don't have nearly as many lights, etc. In a previous live show looking at how to identify aircraft, myself and the panel explained the types of usually green and white lights you see on aircraft. Those were around military bases for that particular story. But here I'm going to give you my 3 steps to help confirm what lights are in the sky. So I've got a few little handy tiles here to help if I could find where I put the buttons. So firstly, how many aircraft are present in your sighting? If you're only seeing one aircraft, then it's extremely highly likelihood that you are looking at something which has nothing to do with the core sightings of concern over New Jersey at the moment. The sightings to originally hit the news in New Jersey were groups of drones flying in formation. This is what prompted the extra no-fly restrictions in the area from the FAA and the investigation from the FBI. The absolute straightforward fact of it is the sighting that you are making of lights in the sky of a single aircraft, not joined by others within a few feet, and so I'm not talking about lights that are kind of dotted together, but within a few feet, are not the drones you're looking for. Bit of a potential Star Wars reference there. Number two, are the lights green, red, and white? These are the colours we are seeing on almost all of the sightings. If so, the aircraft is probably manned aviation. So anything from a small Cessna to a helicopter or even a passenger jet. Every aircraft operating at height at night must have the following anti-collision lighting as per the regulation which we've put on here. All aircraft must have an approved anti-collision light and position light system for nighttime operations. The position lights consist of an aviation red on the left, an aviation green on the right, and an aviation white tail light. So if you see this combination, which literally, I have to say, 99.5% seem to have some combination of that lighting, depending on the angle they're looking at, on something flying over or near you, it is highly likely that the aircraft has been certified and actually holds permits to be up there at night. One thing that can make these crafts look quite scary are actually the large front-facing bright lights that almost look like searchlights. These are again standard landing lights required by regulation when larger passenger jets fly under a certain height, which again is a lot of the sightings in my opinion when you see these very large bright lights at the front. Step 3, and this is a really interesting one actually, I think it's quite a useful one. If you're not driving and obviously not flying I suppose as well, and it is safe to grab your phone, take a look at Flight Radar 24. You can either access it for free as a website or download the app for more information. Literally just search Flight Radar 24 and it will come up. Most aviation geeks have this app and it shows you what is happening in the sky above you in terms of civil manned aviation. If you're seeing the lights previously described, it is likely you'll find the aircraft details on there. Simply pull up the site or app and click on the aircraft. You'll see a little map with the aircraft actually above you. It will show you a little line where the plane has come from and who runs it, its registration number, everything else like that, and where it's going. Now, a caveat for this is that military aircraft are not required to always show these on these types of apps. They will often for most of their flights, but I'm sure you can understand why that wouldn't be the case for a range of reasons for a number of military flights, etc. Also, small drones operating under 400 feet will not show on the app either, but these are the hobby style drones that I'm pretty certain you will not confuse for the larger craft which are in effect here, the one that we saw in our B-roll shot here earlier. Let me just turn that back off. And certainly that's not the type of thing that's being cited, but those kind of drones again will not show on something like Flight Radar 24. So you have the 3 steps. If you've gone through these 3 steps, you've probably identified that the lights you're seeing are normal aircraft going about their business. Next up, we're going to look at the mentioned ripple, explain it, and have us all ask ourselves where we feel that we actually are on it. But first, I want to make a passionate plea to everyone watching not to follow some of the frankly bizarre advice and ideas popping up online, even from some fairly serious commentators, of shooting at lights in the sky. This is a terrible idea, and apart from getting in trouble, serious trouble, there are significant felony charges, particularly in the US, awaiting people shooting at aircraft. But the dangers are so many, it would take a video all of its own to explain them. But obviously shooting at an aircraft with people in it, or potentially people in it, is clearly dangerous. But even shooting at a small drone is more risky than you might think. Rather than a small poof in the sky like you see on the movies, you're likely to rupture the battery and have a flaming fireball crashing out of the sky into anything below, such as your house, frankly. Just don't do it, please. So next up, let's talk about the ripple effect. And this may send some people's eyes a bit funny, I apologize. And I'm going to be coming back to this page as it changes through this explanation. It's a simple visualization and it will help explain what I observe as a journalist working on a story of this particular type. So in the very center here, you have a small dot. This basically represents the number of confirmed sightings of groups of drones flying in the New Jersey area. And you can, again, transcribe this across to other mass sightings as well, such as the ones over the USAF bases. These are the flights that, when alerted to authorities, brought about the extra FAA restrictions and even an FBI investigation. The number of sightings is very small, and although I'm not denying some are concerning, happening, they're over a relatively small geographical area as well. Anything discussed in this small dot is what the authorities are discussing in terms of their investigations, not the mass sightings that we're seeing posted everywhere on social media. I want you to think of this central dot as a stone being thrown in a perfectly still body of water. It causes a lot of disruption and impacts an area of water for a much larger size than the actual stone. The ripples go out and are, of course, reacting to that stone rather than having much to do with the impact itself. Now, these lines outside the central dots, as I explained before, are the ripples of the New Jersey sightings. The first ripple is the people looking at the main confirmed sightings of groups of drones and becoming more aware of what is happening in the night sky around them. It's a natural thing that when you start seeing these, you start looking up and you actually start seeing things that you never noticed before, frankly, or not often noticed. Now, instead of the ripples becoming weaker, as you would see with a stone on water, the further way the ripples actually goes against the norm of it becoming calm, you get the very modern social media and mass news media fed issue where new stones are then thrown into the water, creating their own ripples, which are then fanning out from the ripple lines of the original story. That means that the people looking at those stones are not looking for groups of drones in the sky, but any flashing lights that are flashing or flying near to them, anything at all. These lights happen all the time, but now because of the new ripples, people are basically looking for them. I hope this is making some sense. This means that most of us who do not live in New Jersey have only seen a lot of posts online from people who have seen single aircraft, usually passenger jets or helicopters, and taken video to raise questions about what they are. So the people on the next ripples and so on are looking for less and less evidence of the original sightings, and we end up with every single legitimate flight across the world being highlighted as an invading drone or even a UAP sighting. Another reason the ripples are intensifying is because of social media algorithms and news media modern focus. It's a fact of modern life. It is an absolute fact that the more you watch a particular type of content on social media, the more those apps will serve that type of content. There are so many people finding this channel at the moment because of this story, and even coming through searches for UAPs, something that we don't really discuss on this channel, but the algorithm is associating the two types of topics at the moment for obvious reasons and bringing you wonderful people to come to my channel, and everybody's welcome. Of course, the more views, the better. It's something that even if you try it out, search or a few times on TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram for obscure things, frankly, and you might be surprised what happens. Perhaps Christmas bear making or how to decorate your car for Christmas, and you'll start to get more and more posts and find your feed full of those topics. It isn't because more people are decorating their cars for Christmas. I mean, hey, I'm now tempted to go and look up cars, decorating cars for Christmas, frankly. It's the algorithm trying to suck you back to that app and keep you there. Modern mass media also has a similar algorithm issue. It's slightly different. It has a twist. They, of course, want to get as many views and clicks on their stories as possible. Same here. I'm a content creator and understand that pressure completely. But also you have the added pressure in terms of the mass media, local news agencies in New Jersey seeking national pickup of a story. So if they can prove themselves, it will do very big things for them personally, but also their station as well, frankly. This leads to a rash reporting, and it's also been proven already, as you can see here, with some reporters now removing their original posts of potential drones once they find out that they were basically planes, once people asked them to check them against flight radar. This chap in particular, Stephen Greenstreet, has been going through and actually showing people where they've been going wrong and actually searching flight radar on behalf of people to see what and show them the aircraft that they're actually identifying, which is really interesting. But here we have news outlets basically removing their tweets afterwards once they find out that they were just passenger jets and helicopters, etc. The damage to the algorithm has already happened, of course, and the algorithm will continue throwing stones into the pool of water and creating more and more ripples for as long as people will pay attention to them. The reason the reason that there are actually so few clear pictures of actual drones flying in formation, there's probably 4 or 5 genuine clips out there over New Jersey, is because as soon as someone gets a clear image, they realize what it is and move on with their lives. It's a jet, it's a helicopter, etc. None of this information today is intended to call anyone out, apart from perhaps the so-called professional journalists who really should know better. And if you've seen something, I understand why it can be concerning and even worrying. But I have seen posts on social media of people pulling their kids off flights in case something happens. And that to me is pretty shocking, because it starts a whole new ripple effect with the next generation, frankly. You also have to look at the authorities for their response in all of this. So far, they are concerned and want answers, but nobody is stating any danger exists, or, saying that we're going to shoot them down or anything else like that nature from the original flights that they are really even concerned yet. There has been nothing to suggest any harm or danger at all. Nothing. Listen to all the reports, listen to all the senators talking about this. They're demanding answers. They want to know what's going on, but they're also very much saying to people, we're not aware of any kind of threat to property or people, frankly. So what was actually seen so far, only a tiny number of sightings, as I say, maybe 4 or 5 recorded on video, seem to suggest anything at all other than normal manned aircraft and even unmanned aviation on some of them. The core sightings being investigated are the groups of drones moving in formation that appear to be on some kind of mission together. Although from the world of drone perspective, it is highly unusual to see groups of drones. There aren't many missions that even professional drone operators would fly in that kind of formation, very different to drone light shows, etc., of course. So far, from my personal opinion, the best answers that have been offered is that of a potential strategy from criminals hired potentially by foreign states to disrupt and cause issues, which in itself is a win for them, especially with the way that everyone's reacting to it. Perhaps it could even be in terms of a test of responses. So those are the things that are probably close to the top of my list until I see something more, until I see more evidence. This isn't the first time drones have been sighted over the USA, of course, in these groups, and even the world, without anyone knowing what they are. We released a video looking at a story that we ran a number of years ago last week with an interview from a witness in Colorado. Go watch that for some more background on other sightings of that type. Now, the FBI are asking the public to report confirmed sightings in a very specific geographical area of New Jersey, a very few townships and counties where it was originally impacted. So it's not as if they're asking for these mass drone sightings across America, which is what's starting to happen in terms of social media as well. So when we then go back to the ripple, we have so many points where stones are being thrown, so random sightings are being thrown in, that it almost becomes impossible to know what is fact from a helicopter. So keep this in mind. There is also a uniquely modern factor in terms of communication with this type of issue as well. Forums such as Facebook groups and chats spring up to discuss the problems. We saw it with Lake and Heath. We're now seeing it with New Jersey. It happened with other things as well in terms of drone sightings. These are almost entirely filled with people from the outer ripples, so they have no real sightings at all, but they're concerned enough to go on social media and join a group to see if they can find out what's going on. Entire communities basing their fear on sightings of normal aviation and perhaps even drones. Although many drones fly every day, as I was saying before, all legally, of course, just seeing a drone in itself isn't a fantastic thing, even at night over your property, frankly. These people are stationary on one of our ripples and not moving, only looking inwards to see these groups more and more really misinformation that supports their fears. Lights in the skies that have been there for decades, with flights happening all the time on these long winter nights especially. So in making this report today, all I'm asking is for us to take a look, including my fellow journalists, at where we are on this ripple, on the ripples, as it were. Have you seen the original sightings of the formations of drones in New Jersey? If not, you are with the 99% of people, including myself, and we are reacting to ripple down versions of the stories that authorities are actually trying to check. That doesn't mean the core story here isn't serious. It is, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't require urgent answers. It certainly does. But it also means that those lights in the sky that are similar to the ones you have seen on Facebook, etc., are actually nothing to do with the core sightings of concern. So again, take a look at things. Don't be one of these people throwing another stone in, just posting a photograph of a 737 going or a helicopter going over your head. Have a look, open up Flight Radar 24 and try to really look a little bit closer in terms of what might be happening up there. So as I say, hopefully that has come across. Let's have a very quick look at the chat and see what people are saying here. Thank you very much again for a very well attended live show. I really do appreciate it's been an interesting story. It has helped the channel numbers, so I'm not going to deny that it hasn't been interesting from that point of view, but it's also been interesting really to see people's reactions. We've had such a huge reaction from people denying anything is happening at all the way through really to the other side of things, of people thinking it's UAPs, etc. So it's incredible. Obviously, I'm not there. I don't know. Yeah, I'm seeing this actually. It's good to see you, Bert, Dynodrone. Now, Bert is I think you're, apologies if I mislabel you, Bert, but aren't you a volunteer firefighter, I think. So thank you for that. But he got blamed for this by the training officer that he worked with in the fire department. He said he was the one that was doing it. And I've actually seen this online as well, where drone companies, local drone companies, are actually being harassed online, and are so professional survey companies, that type of thing in New Jersey, are being harassed via email and telephone calls of locals that are worried and asking them if it's them, basically, and not even just asking, actually accusing them of it. John Coopy, this entire situation has completely melted down into a wave of dangerous misinformation and paranoia. Indeed. I mean, I'm even seeing people sending me, forwarding me posts from the Ring doorbell network and that type of thing, where people are posting on there to show lights passing their house, etc. And it's something, perhaps us so-called aviation guys are getting this wrong. I'm open to all, but I can only go on what I know and the evidence that's in front of me. But most of these sightings, there was one of a young girl walking along the road in real fear, and I felt for her, recording on her phone, wondering what on earth was going over her head. It was clearly a small passenger jet with its landing lights on, and I'm surprised she hasn't seen more of those. But of course, people aren't looking up. They're just carrying on with their day. They're walking along, much more interested in what's happening on the cars coming towards them or people walking around them, etc. They're not looking and even seeing the lights in the sky. And as I say, with this ripple effect, that's another stone on the outside there. So anybody else outside of her and looking at her posts is now thinking, oh, is that a bad a drone? Are those lights in the sky that I should be concerned about? And it's rippling out, and obviously that's having a bit of an issue, shall we say. John Burns, nothing but drone sighting for a fortnight now. I've been wanting the National Trust show, seems to be delayed because some idiot has spotted a drone. Yes, indeed. Well, we are a drone news channel. We do have to follow the news sometimes, but yeah, no, I understand, John. I'm looking forward to the normality as well, and that's coming very soon. John Cubitt, as a former NJ resident myself, I can't believe how many people are unable to recognize a jet plane or a New Jersey police helicopter. It's like, have you ever actually looked at the sky where you live? Yeah, and it's an interesting one, isn't it? But I think when you look at the groups as well, John, so if you look at some of the Facebook groups around this, they're sort of trying to, identifying New Jersey drones type Facebook groups that have sprung up. There is a lot of fear in there. There's a lot of people, of course, they are normal residents saying, what on earth is this? I'm really afraid. I don't know what to be doing here, etc. And, therefore, with that backdrop, they're going out and seeing it. It's the same as, you can watch a particularly scary episode of The Walking Dead. Is it that scary these days? Certainly in the early days when The Walking Dead was a really new phenomena, it used to unnerve me a little bit, shall we say. So you'd watch a couple of episodes back to back, and you go and put the bin out at night in the dark Surrey streets, and you're a little bit, what's that noise? What's that noise? it's something that obviously can't happen, but because you've been exposed to it, because your brain, your brain's fear channels have been opened up, you are much more susceptible to it. And I think that that's what's happening online, and people are not using that at the moment. It's incredible. And actually, I'm sure social media experts will be able to take a lot from what's been happening, particularly on these sightings, the Lakenheath sightings, and everything else like that. It's always interesting because with the New Jersey sightings and the sightings now, there is a core of truth there. There's something happening there in both situations. And there are reasons why in the military ones in the UK here that we'll never hear about those. And there are security issues and that type of thing. But perhaps in the US, with this being more of a public area, then we are seeing a lot more public officials calling for action and answers. So we might actually get some kind of answers. We'll have to wait and see. Tazzy, one of our moderators, good to see you, Tazzy. So many planes and helis around my area do not show on flight radar. It's so annoying. Yeah, it is. But my only hope is that because a lot of the sightings that I'm seeing are clearly passenger jets, I'm just hoping that quite a few of them, there is a very good percentage chance that those will show up on flight radar for people. I live near a couple in a military area with a couple of airports around me. Most aircraft pops up, but yes, there's always the military helicopters skimming the rooftops, etc. But often, of course, they're making noises like helicopters and jets, etc., so you can hear them. Yeah, Michaela, don't hold your breath for that one. But they're not happening over here. We'll have to see on that. I mean, obviously, we've got a lot going on in terms of when you're looking at the US, the geography is so much bigger. You could fit the UK multiple times just into Texas. So obviously our airspace is so much smaller, and there are huge amounts of airspace in the States that are just, pretty much unwatched, basically. So it's a very different phenomena, isn't it? Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. As I say, we are going to be getting back to our normal content. We've got a great live show to bring you tomorrow evening, another one on Thursday regarding National Trust. Looking forward to doing that. Graham and his shirts will also be returning. This should be it. We've gone through kind of the story arc with this particular topic. We've gone from the original sightings here in the UK through to trying to not necessarily debunk, but explain some of those with our live show before in terms of what you're looking at in terms of the military aircraft. And now this is really the ripple effect in terms of, I'm hoping people find this. So do hit the like button before you leave the show this evening to help the algorithm for this particular show, because we want this explanation to get into the algorithm of all those other shows to try and help people to understand what they're seeing and perhaps take a little bit more of an objective view of what's there. Excellent. Well, we've got Christmas coming up soon as well. So we've got our end of year review coming with Graham, which is going to be very exciting. It's was it our first full year with Graham? And I think it might have been. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well. We are going to be taking a look back at some of his shirts from the year. Although that might end up being a members live stream, who knows? But I've already, he doesn't know this yet. I've already started clipping out all the shirts from the live shows. But yes, but we're back on tomorrow. So we'll see you then. Sean out.